Imagine stepping outside your home, only to find your perfectly kept lawn torn apart again and again. Not by chance, but by your neighbor. A neighbor who thinks the rules don't apply to her. But what happens when one man finally fights back in a way no one expected? Stay tuned, because this story takes a turn that left an entire neighborhood speechless. This isn't just a story about grass and property lines. It's a story about respect, boundaries, and what happens when someone pushes you too far. It all began in a quiet suburban neighborhood, a place where people waved as they passed by, lawns trimmed, cars washed on weekends, and a homeowners association that watched every detail. But underneath that calm surface, tension was brewing. The man at the center of it all was Marcus. Hard-working, proud of his home, and especially proud of his lawn. To Marcus, his lawn wasn't just grass. It was his space, a sign of his effort, his pride, his place in a community that wasn't always welcoming. But then came Karen. Not just any Karen. This was an HOA board member. She wore her title like a badge of honor. Rules for everyone else, but exceptions for herself, and that's where the trouble started. Karen's house sat across from Marcus's. She drove a luxury SUV, big, wide, and hard to miss. But instead of turning properly into her driveway, she took a shortcut, straight across Marcus's lawn. At first, Marcus thought it was an accident, a tight turn. Maybe she misjudged. He let it slide. But then it happened again, and again. Deep tire marks pressed into the grass, mud splattered. The lines of her tires carved a path that grew deeper with each pass. Marcus tried to stop her the polite way. He waited by his porch. "Karen, could you not drive over my lawn?" he asked one morning, keeping his voice calm. Karen laughed. Not an apology, not even acknowledgement. Just a laugh. "It's grass," she said. "It'll grow back." To Marcus, that laugh said everything. She didn't care. She wasn't going to stop. Marcus considered going to the HOA. After all, wasn't that their job? Protecting property, enforcing rules. But remember, Karen was on the board. When he tried, the response was quick. "Karen says she hasn't been driving over your lawn. Maybe it's delivery trucks or landscapers." It was a cover-up. Karen was using her position to dismiss his complaint. Now Marcus was trapped. His pride in his home clashed with the constant disrespect. His neighbors whispered but stayed silent. Who wanted to go against an HOA board member? Days turned into weeks. Each morning, Marcus walked outside to see fresh tracks. He tried putting up small garden stakes. She flattened them. He lined the edge with potted plants. She swerved harder, knocking one over. One night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He stared at his ceiling, replaying her laugh. That mocking tone. He thought, if the rules won't stop her, I'll have to. That was the turning point. Marcus went to a hardware store. Not for more stakes. Not for cameras. For something different. He bought steel spikes. Sharp, thick, impossible to miss once they did their job. But he didn't leave them visible. No, that would be too easy. Marcus measured his lawn carefully. Found the exact tire marks she had carved. He dug shallow trenches just deep enough. Then he planted the spikes, tips hidden just beneath the grass. Invisible to the eye, it wasn't sabotage. It was defense. His lawn, his rules. The next morning, Marcus waited, heart racing. Sure enough, Karen's SUV rolled up. She swung wide, cutting across his lawn like always. But this time her smug shortcut ended differently. Crunch. The sound echoed across the street. A tire burst, then another. Her SUV tilted awkwardly. Karen slammed the brakes, stumbling out in disbelief. She stared at her car, then at the lawn. Rage spread across her face. "You did this!" she screamed. Marcus stepped off his porch, calm, steady. "You did this," he said. The neighborhood gathered quickly. Phones out, recording. Karen, the HOA board member, red-faced and furious. Her car disabled on Marcus's lawn. She tried to call the police. When they arrived, she shouted accusations. He planted traps. It's illegal. But the officers looked at the scene. Then at the videos neighbors had recorded. "Ma'am," one officer said, "you drove onto his private property." Multiple times. "He has the right to protect it." Karen's mouth opened, then closed. No defense. The HOA tried to intervene. Tried to fine Marcus. But the evidence was too strong. The videos went online. Karen became infamous. The HOA's credibility shattered. For Marcus, it wasn't victory he felt. It was relief. Relief that someone who disrespected him finally faced consequences. Relief that his boundaries were seen and respected. But here's the twist. A week later, Marcus found an anonymous note in his mailbox. "Not all of us are like her. Thank you for standing up. You gave us all courage." It wasn't just about grass anymore. Marcus realized his fight wasn't only for himself. It was for everyone too afraid to speak up against power abused. Respect isn't about big speeches or positions on a board. It's shown in small actions. Every tire track across that lawn told Marcus his place didn't matter, until he made it matter. Sometimes it takes one act of courage to change the balance, one act to show that boundaries count. So the next time someone laughs at your limits, remember Marcus, because silence lets people like Karen win. But action, even hidden under grass, can change everything.